Hey guys, it's Paul. Thought we just might get together this on a Sunday evening, kind of talk about what's on everybody's mind. I was thinking today about what I want to do for my winter hikes. Started thinking about what I did this past year. So I wrote down what I did, and holy cow, I did a lot of hikes this year. I actually got 4,000 footers in, which is more than I thought that I would get in. Hopefully, this next summer I'll get some more 4,000 footers in. Hopefully, get some overnighters in. So that's the plan. But let's kind of look at what I did for the year. Started in January and went up to the Harvard Falls in Lincoln. That was a fun hike. Never been on that one before. A lot of the hikes that I did this past year I hadn't done before. I don't think I made it to the end of the Harvard Falls because there was a spot that got really sketchy, so I really didn't want to risk my luck. So I turned around on that one. February got out. Oh man, that was a gorgeous day. I want to say middle of February, middle end of February. Got out, did a portion of the Boulder Loop Trail in Albany. It's the one it's got the covered bridge. I only did a portion of that. Um, I didn't. I had never been on it. Didn't know how long it was, so I really didn't want to again risk it. Uh, March got up to Lincoln, one of my favorite places to hike. Thing is, it's everybody's favorite place to hike. Went up to the Lincoln Woods area and hiked and walked along the East Side Trail that parallels the Lincoln Woods Trail. We've got the Pemigewasset River that divides them. Hoping to do that one next year as well in the summer. There are a couple campsites that I want to try to get to. That one's more of a training hike because that one's really flat. Got up to Mount Kearsarge. That was fun. The hardest part about that trail was getting from I'll call it the winter trailhead up to, we'll call it the summer trailhead. It's a state park, so the access road to the real trailhead was blocked off. That was an uphill walk. That got me really huffing and puffing. Definitely a fun hike. There were a couple spots there where I knew I needed to get back into hiking shape because I was really huffing and puffing. Good thing I had my trekking poles with me. Oh, I got up to Carter Notch Hut. That was one of my, don't really want to say bucket list hikes, but it was a hike that I've been wanting to do for a while. Thing that I like about Carter Notch Hut is it's deep in the valley of the Carter Notch. There's some notches in New Hampshire, specifically Franconia Notch, that aren't really that impressive because they're really wide, whereas Carter Notch and Crawford Notch are really a bit more impressive. But Carter Notch, because those mountains, Wildcats on one side and the Carters on the other, basically leave a really narrow valley that the Carter Notch fits into. It's I think that was a 3.9 mile hike in one direction. Got to, as I descended from the intersection of the Wildcats Trail and the 19-mile Brook Trail, there's a spot where you have to descend down to the lakes area, across the ponds. And as I entered into the woods, post holds up to my hip on one of my legs. Can't remember if it was my right or left hip. That took a bit to get out of. I had to keep myself calm because because it was tough getting out of that post hole. I had to remind myself it was early in the day. I had plenty of headlamps, I had plenty of light daylight, and there were plenty of people on the trail. So if I really needed help, there were people there to help me. When I made it up to the hut was big. The main building of the hut, because Carter Notch Hut is broken out into, I want to say, 3 or 4 separate buildings. Got the main hut that has the kitchen and the dining room. Then you've got 2 bunkhouses, and I think the bathrooms are separate as well. Um, kind of like Zealand Falls and Lonesome Lake, the other 2 year-round huts. Um, Zealand Falls hut, that's one that I really want to get to in the winter. That one's a bit tougher to get to because the trailhead to the hut is on a national forest road that gets closed in the fall. So you have to basically do a 3-mile road walk up to the hut, and I really up to the trailhead, and I don't like the idea of a 3-mile trek through the snow just to start my hike. So that one's going to be a while, but that one's definitely one that I want to hit. So after I did the Carter Notch hut, April came along, and I had been wanting to get up to Coppermine Trail up to Bridal Veil Falls. I thought I had left enough time between winter's end and spring, but I should have known better that when I got into we'll call it the deeper woods, that there would be plenty of snow left. Most of the hike up to the shelter was free of snow. There was some ice here and there, but once I crossed, there was a bridge across a stream that I had to go over to the Coppermine stream, I guess. I definitely hit the snow. Didn't really post hole that much. It was beaten out and broken out pretty well, but once you got past the hut or the shelter, is hard to get to the actual falls. So I never actually made it to the falls in the spring. I did make it back up in the later in the summer, which was really fun. I think I did that in July. Much nicer hike. But from the shelter to the falls, there really isn't a well marked trail. So I guess you could say bushwhacked, traipsed through the stream to figure out how to get to the hut, to the falls. Either way, it was a gorgeous hike. I don't think that's an overnighter that I want to do because the shelter doesn't look all that comfortable, and there isn't any space for any tents. So that one I don't think I'll do as an overnight hike. What I'm hoping to do next year for overnighters, I'd like to get back up to the Mount Garfield tent site. That's a great tent site. Did that one years ago. Years, gonna have to call that decades at this point. Yeah, love the views from Mount Garfield. Really can't beat those. Later in April, stuck around southern New Hampshire, found a trail in Hooksett that I actually liked. It was called was it Pinnacle Park? Short hike, but it got to the top. Easy to see down into Hooksett. Really nice, easy hike, but something that I think I'm surprised I didn't see more people on that trail. June came along, found another hike. Gotta love all trails. That's where I find most of these hikes. If I'm not digging through the White Mountains Guide to find a hike, I'm going through all trails. Found a short trail, Black Cap Mountain. Nice, easy trail. Really wasn't much of a challenge. Towards the summit of Black Cap Mountain, there was a bit of a rock scramble. as I was headed up, there was a couple that was they were newer to hiking, so they didn't feel comfortable going towards the summit where there was a bit of a rock scramble. So they came back down. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Safety is everything to me. So you didn't feel comfortable, so they turned around. Made total sense to me. But that's definitely one I think I might do over and over. There are a couple hikes that I love to do over and over. In July, yeah, it was July that I did went back up to um, Bridal Veil Falls. That was a gorgeous, gorgeous hike. Um, in August, oh nope, actually back in July, yeehaw, started back on cranking out some of the 4,000 footers. For some reason, in the back of my head, I had thought that the Hancocks were an easy trail, or easy hike. When I did it, I want to say 10 years ago, um, it seemed really easy, but I've come to realize that your mind makes hard thing. It blocks out the difficult things. Um, the north headed up north Hancock. At one point, I was using trees to pull myself up. This is a typical White Mountains trail. You go for miles and miles on flat, easy terrain, and then you come upon, I just like to say, it's like a wall. You go straight up, rocks, roots, and it's just straight up for like a mile and a half until you hit your summit. The White Mountains like to lull you into a sense of ease, and then it kind of slaps you in the face. Um, so on that hike, I headed out. I started out alone. Totally forgot to tell anybody I was hiking that trail. Came to a river crossing. Didn't feel comfortable doing that on my own, not having left anybody any itinerary. So if something happened, who knew how long it would be before somebody found me? I heard a group of people coming up behind me, so I waited till they got to me, and then I kind of tagged along with them. At one point, I said, "You know what? I'm not part of your team, so technically, you don't have to wait for me, but it would be nice if every now and then you just kind of give a shout back, make sure I'm still there." So that they did. On the hike up North Hancock, there were two guys that kind of were going just about as slow as I was, so we went up together up to summited Mount North Hancock together. Did some sightseeing at the Outlook, and then headed on over to Middle and South Hancock. One of the guys in the group gashed his shin pretty good, so I was going to wait for them, and they're like, "Nah, go ahead." So I went ahead, which was good because then I had somebody in front of me and a group behind me. So if something really happened, then I had two groups that could help. That was an eye opener because that was a tough hike. So uh, I have to remember 4,000 footers are tough hikes. So we did. So I finished July with the Hancocks. In August, I started looking at the maps and my White Mountain Guide, trying to figure out what my next hike would be. Pulled out the maps and I realized that I never actually summited Mount Pierce way back when I was going for my 48 4,000 footers. So I guess I've been a poser for about 7 years because there's a spot on the Crawford Path that I had taken to be the summit of Mount Pierce. But had I looked at my map, I would have known that there was a trail that veered off from the Crawford Path to Mount Pierce. It was the Webster Cliff Trail. It's a tenth of a mile from the intersection of Crawford Path. So in August, went up, took Crawford Pass, banged out the 10th of a mile up to Mount Pierce. And 7 years later, I guess I finally finished my 4,000 footers. In September, didn't do much real hiking that month. I did do Mount Pierce. That was a fun hike. The previous time I had done Mount Pierce, Mount Eisenhower, I'd gone up via the Edmonds Path. This time I went up Crawford Path up to Mount Pierce. I think that took me about 5 hours just to get to the summit. Did it before, can't remember what hurricane it was, but we were supposed to get hit with big winds the next day. So I did it on a Friday. There were quite a bit of people on the trail on that Friday. Usually Saturday is really busy, but that Friday was pretty busy as well. October, I decided I was going to try the Webster Cliff Trail. I had seen a couple people do it on their Appalachian Trail through hike, and it looked tough. So I'm like, hey, let's see what it's like. And that is one tough trail. A lot of rock scrambles. There was one spot that the trail wasn't that evident, and there was a waterfall that I had to cross, but I thought I had to go up it. So at that point, I kind of sat down and thought it out. Should I go forward, or because I thought I had to go up the waterfall, and I really wasn't too keen on doing that. So then I sat there and thought, okay, does it make sense to take the risk and go up the waterfall or turn around? As I sat there and resigned myself to turning around, I looked across the waterfall and saw the trail, and like, oh, well, okay, so I guess I won't be calling it a day. I just had to figure out how to cross the waterfall and carry on. That was another tough hike, and I didn't really get to the true cliffs of the Webster Cliff. Got to the first lookout, which was enough for me. Was able to see down into Crawford Notch, the Willie historical site, the Willie House historical site. It looked like it was about the peak of the foliage season, but the colors were really muted because they were muted by the wildfires in Canada. The smoke had come down from them, and that was actually quite a bit of smoke because I could smell it. It was not that good. Had a lot of smoke from the wildfires in Canada this year. And so, yeah, I didn't do much in October. Well, last hike that I did in October was my last 4,000 footer. So I did 4,000 footers this year. Did Mount Tecumseh. The one thing that I remembered about Mount Tecumseh was it was basically a Stairmaster from the trailhead up to the summit. But it wasn't a total Stairmaster all the way. Like I had in my mind, there were stretches of quote unquote flat. When I say flat, it's White Mountains flat, easy grades or steep grades with just rocks and roots. But I did hit the one spot that I do remember where it was the Stairmaster, and it just went straight up. I like the stairs, especially when when you're headed down. It's a lot easier on my knees. I have found as I've gotten older, my knees really don't like going down a lot of these hikes. Was it last year? Yeah, last year I did the Kinsman Ridge Trail from the tram parking lot up to the summit of Cannon Mountain, and that was tough. So I have found on descents, if I go down sideways or kind of back down, it saves my knees. And the stairs on Mount Tecumseh definitely definitely saved my knees there. Um, so that pretty much ended my hiking so far for the year. Coming to the end of November, so it's getting really cold in the mornings, and my energy or my exuberance to get up at 5 in the morning to get to a trailhead is not like it used to be when I was banging out the 4,000 footers. So I don't know if I'll do any real serious hikes this winter. I do want to do Mount Pierce this winter. That's a relatively easy hike to get done. Um, I'd love to get Mount Eisenhower, but that one for me is just a little bit too far out and too exposed above tree line for me in the winter. So I gotta find another because I would like to hit a couple 4,000 footers. Um, Definitely not the Hancocks. Maybe Tecumseh because that's definitely a bit easier. It's all within trees. If I could figure out how maybe I can get the energy or the ambition, that's the word I'm looking for, the ambition, maybe I'll go up and hit not Mount, New Zealand Falls Hut because I'd really like to see what that's like in the winter. um, I have a feeling that one's not as busy as um, Lonesome Lake. Love getting up to Lonesome Lake even in the winter. The issue with Lonesome Lake is everybody loves Lonesome Lake. It's easy to get to. It's right off Franconia. Uh, it's right off 93 and Franconia Notch. So if you're gonna hit Lonesome Lake any time of the year, you've got to get to the trailhead like before 7. So I got to get up at like 5 just to hit the road. I think I'm pretty much done with my 5 o'clock in the morning hikes. Um, so yeah, that was my hiking journey for the year. Hopefully, I can make it as maybe I hopefully I can make 2024 as productive as 2023 was. Um, so tell me what you'd like to see me do in 2023. Um, Hopefully, we'll make this a regular thing. See if we can do it on Sundays at 6 o'clock. I've recorded this so that if you don't get a chance to see it today, you can always come back and look at it in the future. So until I see you again in my next adventure, maybe even next Sunday, this is Paul signing off.